Hello, my name is James Cool. I'm the producing artistic director here at Tipping Point, and we are continuing our TPT talks today as we talk with artists from the state and kids of artists around the state of all sorts of different topics that are related around artistry and theater and creativity. Today with me, I have Emilio Rodriguez. Emilio is one of the founders. You'll probably have to correct me on this to exactly know what the what the history is, but he is the founder of the Black and Brown Theater, and it is a theater that is set up in Detroit that is specifically exists to support and advocate for artists of color. So Emilio, thank you so much for joining me today. Why don't we start off with correcting me if in anything that I've said thus far that's incorrect. How did Black and Brown Theater come about? Who is it that's involved? How long has it been going on?
Yeah, so a friend of mine and I started it in 2016, just in response to feeling like we could see more theater artists of color in a variety of roles, and really variety was our focus. So giving theater artists of color the opportunity to perform pieces that maybe are more traditionally or expected, and then also some opportunities to perform pieces that people might not traditionally expect to see theater artists of color in, and celebrating both. And so now I've switched over into the artistic director role. But as you know, theater in Michigan, you wear many hats. So sometimes I'm directing, writing, meeting with the school to see if we can book something there. So it's definitely no day is the same.
Right. Oh, I understand that. Fixing the vacuum cleaner, repairing, any number of the things that people will come to you and go, fix this. I don't know what to do, and the buck kind of stops with you. So how has Black and Brown Theater evolved from the beginning to what it is now?
So we started off just doing showcases of 10-minute plays, sort of like a sample for theaters to come and see the artists, and then decide if they want to work with the artists in future projects. And then we started switching into actually doing plays, and then we started doing a lot of work with schools and libraries to sort of connect with families, because that was something we were or doing a better job of connecting with families, because we were coming across a lot of people saying, I'd love to see a show, but I have a 6-year-old or a 4-year-old. And so thinking about ways that we could create shows that the whole family could go to. But for me, I personally don't connect with some shows that are just geared towards kids, because then I think when I was an actor friend going to see my friend's shows when they were in those kid shows, and then I didn't have kids and I was just sitting in the audience like, oh my gosh, when is this gonna end?
Yeah.
This
is cute. This is really cute.
Yeah, and I'm sure some parents feel that way too, like, oh my gosh, I hope my kid's enjoying this, because this time is not flying. So we wanted to make sure that we were creating family shows that the whole family could enjoy, that there would be a story that adults could grasp onto, but there would also still be the fun gags and costumes and stuff that would get the kids' attention. So that's become a focus for us recently.
Yeah, that rings very true, even with, well, I think with all audiences. I know that the audience here at Tipping Point, loves comedies, and they're not, short on saying like, don't do anything that makes me, like, I don't want to cry. I just want to come and forget about things. And so there's this really large push for comedies. But then you also have that group of individuals that are like, yeah, all of that's really nice. I enjoy a laugh, but can I get something to really sink my teeth into? That variety. Trying to find that particular variety is definitely a struggle to keep that particular balance. So one of the things, or I think like the really big thing, there's so much to talk about, especially with what is happening in the world, right now, with people of color and all of the protests that are happening, and there's a lot of it that this isn't anything new. It's just has come to this point of a massive amount of people not being heard. And so we're getting to be, that are now, finding ways to be heard that we haven't done before. Well, no, that's not even true. That's not even true. We have done this before, but we haven't changed. And that, I think, that is one of the really big problems, that we have to do better. And so one of I guess the first question that I would love for you to talk about a little bit is that avenue for yourself of the advocacy and the support of people of color, like, and how it is that that was the motivating, or was a motivating force for you with Black and Brown theater. How do you feel that it's been going for you, and what is it that we look for in the future?
Yeah, I'm glad that you touched on that. This has been going on for a while, and I know I, being of that millennial generation, really started becoming aware of particularly issues with police brutality right around Trayvon Martin, but continuing to be involved in and using art as an advocacy tool. But I think it's something that, if I'm transparent, I'm still learning the best way to do that, because sometimes the focus can go so much on the art that the issue doesn't get as much attention anymore. And so I'm really loving what some people are doing to use their art to grab people's attention and then direct people to the actual resources like blacklivesmatter.com, so that people can sign up and learn about ways that they can be advocates and be allies as well, and not just seeing a piece, but having some action steps after the piece too. So I really love that. And I think as far as our work, we're, like I said, variety is our goal. So we're constantly evolving and constantly responding to things in different ways. And we've been fortunate enough to have some pieces where we do address and talk about police brutality, and some pieces where just existing is the focus, because we want to show a holistic perspective of people of color. I think it's a wonderful thing that people are paying attention to of people of color right now, but we want it to be not just when people of color are being murdered, but just every day, that our focus and our energy can be rethinking how people of color are treated here in America, so that it moves beyond surviving and moves into thriving.
So there has often been, I think, and again, like, I keep coming back to, we have to do better. We have to do better. And I think that one of the things that I have heard is that opportunities, that, like, the general auditions for theaters across the state, and are open, are open general auditions. And one of the things that I know that I see with my general auditions would be artists and actors that are predominantly white. And so there is this element for Tipping Point, anyway, that we want to have more artists and actors of color come to the general auditions. And so I wonder, how is it that, what kind of avenues can we as a theater actively do to get artists of color to come and audition?
That's a great question, and I feel like my answer always changes every time I'm asked this, because it is constantly evolving, and there's constantly new actors coming into the pool. But I think I think we can start looking at the younger generation and start seeing how we can support their development and their trajectory. So it might not be an instant casting tomorrow, but 8 years from now, people will have more options if we start doing the work and the planning ahead of time. So I would love to see more theaters reaching out to high school students and encouraging them and letting them know that theater is an option that they can pursue. And then also educating them about college options, that theater is something you can study in college. There are ways to make a living that is not often shared with people, especially if their parents aren't familiar with theater as a career. So all of us doing that advocacy work to expose children to theater from a younger age so that they grow up with this love of theater and study theater and get the formal training to be prepared to audition. And then I think for the actors who are ready, I think we can all do a better. I mean, I'm guilty of this too, of sometimes we get so busy that we're just not able to see everything that's out there. But I think doing our best to see work that's out there. And maybe we're learning a little bit from this quarantine that stuff can be filmed more. And theaters that don't, I know some equity theaters have restrictions of what can and can't be recorded, but those theaters that aren't equity theaters, finding ways to share the recordings, maybe even private recordings, private Vimeo shares, or private YouTube video shares, so that more theater companies can see artists of color, even if they're not able to actually see the show. And hopefully that theaters will be more open to the idea of maybe someone doesn't have to audition in the beginning, because you have to build up your trust with actors of color who have maybe seen this theater company or any theater company and thought, they don't consistently cast actors of color, I'm not going to waste my time auditioning. So maybe jumping the audition and just offering some roles based on the work that you've seen. And then once you start getting a reputation of this theater company is interested in casting actors of color, they'll spread the word to their own networks as well.
I think I mean, it's unbelievable. Like it's true. Like I talk often about making a safe environment for our artists to create in. We share very vulnerable moments in rehearsals as we explore humanity, and we have to, even in the classroom. In the classroom, you have to feel safe in order to open yourself up to these particular possibilities. And if that bridge of trust, or if it doesn't feel safe in our institutions or in our organizations, then we're the ones that are responsible as producers to create a new environment in which everyone can feel safe for whatever reason that they need in order to feel safe. So that's pretty wonderful, and that onus does go on to both a teacher and a creator of theater to provide that environment to any of the artists. What do you think are some of the larger obstacles right now that are in the way of organizations and theaters to create this trust or these safe environments?
I think that the variety in what's being presented is something that we can all do a better job. Myself included, what we present at Black and Brown. But making sure that there's different stories told too, because different stories resonate with different people. Just like you said, different stories resonate with different audiences. Some audiences just want to see all comedies. Some might be asking you for more emotionally present pieces. And so I think the more that all of us as theaters can work together to present more variety in our season, could be a really powerful tool to start reaching out to people and seeing artists of color, not just on the stage, but also behind the stage, to help create that safe environment that you mentioned. And then also looking to see more into, we have so many local playwrights here. It really, and great directors too. It sometimes surprises me that our gut instinct is always to see like what's playing on Broadway, what's playing in New York. And I think if we really want to create a safe environment in the communities that we are a part of, looking to the communities that we are a part of for as resources for writers and directors, and then that they can pull in their own network of actors as well. And I think it also helps with the audience too. We always say we want to bring in new audiences, But I think new actors, new playwrights, new directors, they all bring in a new audience as well that can hopefully become long-term audiences for the theaters who are willing to take the risk.
Yeah, you know, this is this particular, I don't know if there's a question that comes into it, but the idea of creating that safe environment extends beyond just the rehearsal, the rehearsal room. I was a guest teacher at a class. It was, I want to say, 2 years ago, and I was talking about Tipping Point, and a student asked what our demographic was, what does our audience look like, and I know those, and I gave that information. And then there was a student of color that asked this question, and he asked, "Is there anything that you do or say to help or prepare your actors of color in performing, for your community or audience that is predominantly white?" And the truthful answer was no. But it really got me thinking that oftentimes when we talk about what it is that we need to create theater, we need an actor and we need an audience. And I always talk about, you got to think about those two things and how it is that they come together to create that special communion and the power of theater. But up until that point, it had never crossed my mind that the actors, regardless of color, would need any type of preparation to perform for an audience, because that part of the job for me was like, no, you learn your stuff, you go do it. If somebody paid their ticket, they're going to watch it. But when you really start to think about it, that communion between the two is an important element to the power of each individual show. And so I was wondering, I guess there really isn't a question in here, but it's more of like, do you have any thoughts as far as that goes, in trying to continue to develop our audience and to build our audience and make it this trustful, safe environment for actors of color?
I don't know what the right answer would be for
Mhm.
building trust. I think in general we can all do a better job of communicating with our actors and not being afraid to have the conversation over and over again. I think sometimes we feel like, let's come up with a set protocol and then we just keep it going.
Yeah,
But
follow the mold. This is what you do at this point. Yeah. Mhm.
exactly. And I think we could all benefit from and something that I'm working on too with the new actors we're working on over the summer. We have some actors we've never worked with before, but checking in to see what their needs are. And yes, it feels like we already asked this to the last cast, but it's a new cast. So,
Mhm.
and also people's needs can change and people's responses to everything that's going on in the world, with continued racism, continued police brutality, continued pandemic that we don't know when it's going to end,
Yeah.
can mean that people respond to things differently now. So that check-in, I think, is really valuable. And just asking pretty bluntly how people would feel most supported. And
That.
then, oh, the other thing I was going to say was, it's kind of a little bit off topic with what you're saying, but something that I always think about with audience, and I always tell my team we can do a better job of, and again, breaking that mold, is the promotional material. Oftentimes I feel like it is very much geared towards a theater audience, and not even necessarily a particular race or gender, but just I like going to the theater audience. And then we sometimes sit back as artistic directors or executive directors and say, why are we not getting anyone who doesn't go to the theater? Why is it just the same theater people? But it's even just from our marketing is very geared towards theater people, because I remember handing out flyers one time at a big public event. I think it might have been Pride, and people were asking me, is this a club?
Yeah.
Because there were flyers that we're handing out. I was like, that does make sense. We do hand out club flyers for theater. It is a weird contradiction, but also a lot of times it's just not clear that it's a play. And people say, but it says this theater company, but also like a spoken word event could happen in a theater company. A film could happen in a theater venue. A public talk could happen in a theater venue. A book reading could happen in a theater venue. And so even when it says title by so-and-so, someone might interpret that as a book reading and say that's not of interest to me. So thinking about how we can make marketing more clear to non-theater people, even if maybe it's having two separate marketing tools for a show.
Oh, I mean, but you're right on there. I mean, when talking to actors about their, resumes, the days of having one resume that you put on the back of your headshot, and you have to keep that resume for 6 to 8 months to a year until you go through all of them. Like those days are done. We have word processors that instantly can rearrange your resume to, better highlight you for what theater it is that you're going to be auditioning for. And so that really is an interesting topic there to delve into, is how you adapt the marketing materials for the different audiences. Theater audiences, they're going to want, they're going to know and understand the typical, like, oh no, this is the play because I know that place and that's this theater. But individuals that don't go to the theater, they look at it in a much different way. I like that. I like that quite a bit. That's
Even
interesting.
like we often, and I'm guilty of this too, because I love a good cartoon graphic or image graphic. Then to a non-theater person, it looks like, are you playing a cartoon at this space? So yeah, I'm always thinking about that, how we could do better or different.
So what kind of things does Black and Brown Theater have coming? Well, I started into that and then realized that everything is shut down right now. But do you have plans, for, do you have any online things that are happening right now with Black and Brown? What's going on with them?
Yeah, we're really taking advantage of this digital time to highlight some newer actors, give some new people opportunities, and also use this time to better connect with our audience digitally. It's something that we're aware that we haven't done a good job pre-COVID, because it's not something that felt important pre-COVID, and now it's like, oh, this is the only way you can connect. So it's given us a chance to try some new things. We're currently on week 2 of our All the Webs a Stage monologue competition, which sounds like the actors are competing against each other, but it's actually the actors are choosing their favorite piece that a writer is submitting. So writers all over the country are allowed to submit a piece for any one of the actors. There's 3 actors a week, and then each actor gets to read all the monologues that are addressed to them, and then choose their favorite to memorize, record, and memorize, perform, and record. And then it goes up on our social media channels. And so we thought it was a fun way to give some ownership to the actors, to connect with anyone who wants to try writing, but then also to the actors in their promo video. They also say what they're looking for in a monologue, because sometimes we can make assumptions. I'm guilty of it too. We see one person, we say, oh, this is what kind of monologue they would want to do, or this is what they would want to talk about. And so it's really interesting to hear the different perspective of the actors. You can have someone of the same race and same gender and have 2 completely different answers. So that's been really fun, a fun messaging that we didn't even intentionally plan, but it has been a great result of this. And then we're also working on recording some of our shows that got canceled due to COVID. So we have a show about cyberbullying, which is actually COVID is a happy coincidence, because a terrible thing, but it actually got us to rethink more about the cyber element of the bullying, because now everyone is online. And then we're also recording 2 of our shows for young audiences, or for families, as we like to say, because we want to always remind ourselves that no child goes to the theater by themselves. You'll never be, even when you're performing at schools, a teacher or someone has to sit through that show. So those are the things that we're working on for the summer. And I feel like there's more, but we're also writing some stuff too that'll go up later. Juliana and Kayla are 2 of our playwrights who are working on stuff. So it's busy, but it's all digital, which is a weird change for me, because I'm not usually someone who likes technology.
As you were talking about the kids show, the thing that dropped into my brain was the Muppets, and how much I absolutely loved the Muppets as a kid. But now, as an adult, like I found when I went back to watch the Muppets, all of a sudden I went, wait a minute, that was a dirty joke.
Yep.
And that as a kid, like the things that the things that we pick up and the things that we, as kids enjoy, and all of it, it was a beautiful blend of that with some adult things that would go completely over the kids' head so that the adults can go, oh, okay. so
Yeah.
that's I agree with you there. The importance of going that this is for the family. It's not for, not just for kids, but for the entire family. So if people want to learn more about Black and Brown, or get connected and watch your All the Webs the Stage series, where do they go? How can we find you?
Yeah, so the website, I need to update. We've been a little busy, but blackandbrowntheater.org is the website. But if people want to watch the All the Webs the Stage monologue competition or submit, the best places to go would be our Facebook, facebook.com/BNB Theater. Instagram, we're at BNB Theater. And then our YouTube page, just type in Black and Brown Theater, and you can see all of the actors' videos on that page.
Excellent. So, Emilio, final thoughts? Any advice for artists out there and surviving COVID and moving forward? Or so, final thoughts?
Yeah, I'll just quote one of my favorite Tyra-isms for people who don't know Tyra Banks, America's Next Top Model and supermodel mogul. But she always says, different is better than better. And that's what she teaches she teaches personal branding at Stanford. And I think right now we're thinking we can't do theater, but instead of thinking we can't do theater, think about what we can do differently and how that different art form that we can do or that different idea we have might be better than anything else we've ever created.
Wonderful. Amelia, thank you so much for joining me today and talking about theater and the world. I wish you the very best, and I look forward to visiting Black and Brown Theater and having you here at Tipping Point.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Great. Have a good day.
You too.